The story starts on a bright Monday morning. The sun shines through the window as Amara, a 17-year-old girl, ties her hair and smiles at her reflection. She wears her new school uniform, full of hope. This is her first day at Riverside High School, and she wants to make a good impression. Her mother stands at the door and says softly, "You're going to do great, baby." Amara hugs her. "I'll make you proud, Mom." She really believes it. The camera would show her walking out of her small apartment, holding her books tightly, taking a deep breath. The narrator's voice begins. She thought this was the start of a new chapter, but she didn't know that it would soon become her worst nightmare. As Amara walks through the school gates, she feels nervous, but excited. The building is huge, filled with voices and laughter. She smiles at a few students passing by, but most of them just look at her, long, curious looks, and then turn away. She tells herself it's normal. Maybe they're just shy, she thinks. In her first class, she sits down beside a girl with blonde hair. "Hi, I'm Amara," she says kindly. The girl gives a small smile but doesn't answer. A few students at the back start whispering. Amara hears quiet laughter. The teacher walks in and begins the lesson. Everything seems fine for a while until it's time for group work. Amara joins a group of 3 girls. She tries to speak, sharing her ideas, but they ignore her. One of them says, "We already finished the plan," and turns her back. Amara looks down at her notebook. Her hands tremble a little. The narrator says, it was her first day, but already she could feel the wall being built, an invisible wall between her and everyone else. At lunchtime, Amara carries her tray and looks for a seat. All the tables are full of talking students, smiling, laughing. She sees an empty spot near some girls from her class and walks over. "Can I sit here?" she asks politely. The girls look at each other. One shrugs, another whispers something. Then one of them says loudly, "Sorry, we're saving this seat." Amara glances around. No one else is coming. She nods, pretending it's okay, and walks away. She ends up sitting alone in the corner of the cafeteria. She scrolls through her phone, pretending to text, but really she's trying to hide her tears. "Why does it feel like they already hate me?" she whispers to herself. The day drags on. In the hallway, she hears someone laugh behind her. "Look, that's her," a voice says. Amara turns around, but everyone acts normal. She feels her heart pound. After school, she walks home slowly. Her mother asks, "How was your first day?" Amara forces a smile. It was okay. She doesn't want to worry her mom. But that night she lies awake, replaying everything in her head. The stares, the whispers, the cold looks. The narrator continues. Sometimes pain doesn't come from words. Sometimes it comes from silence. And that silence was slowly killing her joy. The next morning, she tries again. She straightens her uniform, ties her shoes tight, and tells herself, today will be better. At school, things only get worse. When she enters class, a few students giggle. Someone has drawn something on the board before she arrived, a cruel picture mocking her skin color. The teacher erases it quickly but says nothing. No one apologizes. Amara's stomach twists. She keeps her head down, pretending to take notes. Later in gym class, the girls are divided into teams. No one picks Amara until the end. She stands alone while everyone else is chosen. When she finally joins a team, the captain mutters, "Don't mess this up for us." During the game, she plays hard, trying to prove herself. She even scores a point, but no one cheers. Instead, one girl rolls her eyes and says, "You think you're special, huh?" Amara looks down, confused. "No, I just wanted to help." The girl walks away. After class, Amara goes to her locker. She opens it and freezes. Inside, there's a folded note. She picks it up and reads, "Go back where you came from." Her hands shake. She looks around the hallway, but no one is there. The screen fades to black. The narrator's voice becomes low and serious. That was the moment she understood. They didn't hate her because they knew her. They hated her because she was different, because she was black. Amara walks home in silence that day. The world around her feels cold and heavy. She sits on her bed staring at the note in her hand. Her phone buzzes, her mom calling, but she doesn't answer. She can't. She picks up her small diary and writes, "They don't even know me, but they already decided I don't belong. Why does the color of my skin make them hate me?" The narrator speaks again softly. That night, she cried until she couldn't anymore. But deep inside, something started to change, a quiet fire, waiting to rise. The camera zooms in on her tear-stained face. Her eyes are tired, but behind the sadness, there's a spark, something unbroken. As the music swells, the narrator closes the part. This was just the beginning. They tried to break her, but they didn't know they were creating. The next morning, Amara stares at her reflection in the mirror. Her eyes look tired. The note from yesterday still lies on her desk. She picks it up, folds it slowly, and whispers, "They want me to break. But I won't." Outside, the sky is gray, clouds cover the sun like a warning. As she walks to school, she keeps hearing that sentence in her head. Go back where you came from. But where was she supposed to go? This was her home. The narrator's voice begins softly. Every step she took felt heavier. Every shadow felt like it was watching her. When she enters the hallway, the noise around her fades. People stop talking for a second just to look at her. Then they whisper again, quietly but loud enough to hurt. Amara keeps her head high, pretending she doesn't notice. In class, the teacher asks for volunteers to read. Amara raises her hand. Before the teacher can call her, a voice from the back says, "Please." Not her again. The class laughs. Amara's hand slowly falls to her side. The teacher clears her throat and picks someone else, pretending not to hear. The narrator says, "It wasn't always what they said. Sometimes it was what they didn't say." The silence that cut deeper than words. During lunch, Amara walks into the cafeteria. The room feels louder than usual. Laughter, phones, cameras flashing. Then she realizes everyone's looking at her. Her stomach drops. She sees a group of girls holding their phones, smirking. One whispers, "She actually came today." Another one shows a screen. It's a photo of Amara, taken yesterday when she was crying in the hallway. The caption says, "The drama queen thinks she's special." She feels her heart beating faster, her hands shaking. She wants to run, but she forces herself to walk past them. Calm, steady, she sits alone at the far corner again. The camera focuses on her face, hurt, anger, confusion, all mixed together. She opens her lunch, but she can't eat. Her appetite is gone. The narrator continues. They turned her sadness into a joke. They turned her pain into entertainment. But they didn't know. The fire inside her was starting to grow. Later that day, Amara walks to the library to escape the noise. It's quiet there, peaceful. She sits in a corner pretending to read, but really, she's just trying not to cry. Then she hears footsteps. It's Lena, a quiet girl from her history class. She walks up and whispers, "Hey, are you okay?" Amara looks up, surprised. No one has asked her that in days. She nods slowly. "I'm fine." Lena sits beside her. "They're just jealous," she says. "You're smarter than all of them." Amara smiles weakly. "You don't even know me." Lena shrugs. "I don't need to. I can see how strong you are." For a moment, Amara feels a little warmth, a small light in the darkness. But as they leave the library, a group of students blocks their way. One girl steps forward and says to Lena, "You're hanging out with her now?" Lena freezes. She looks at Amara, then at the others. She doesn't say a word. She just turns around and walks away. Amara watches her go, her chest tightening. The light she felt disappears instantly. The narrator speaks again. In a world full of noise, silence can hurt the most, because silence means they agree. The days pass slowly. Amara tries to keep to herself. She focuses on her studies, avoids eye contact, walks alone in the hallways. But it's like the more she ignores them, the more they push. Someone starts spreading rumors, saying she's trouble, saying she has an attitude. Even teachers begin to treat her differently. When she asks questions, they roll their eyes. When others talk loudly, nothing happens. But if Amara whispers, she's told to keep quiet. At home, her mother notices her silence. "Sweetheart, you've barely eaten all week. What's going on?" Amara forces a smile. "Just school stuff, Mom." Her mom sighs. "You know you can talk to me." But Amara just nods. She doesn't want to break her mother's heart. That night, she sits by the window, looking at the stars. Her diary lies open on her lap. She writes, "I thought they'd see me for who I am, but they only see what they want. My skin, High difference. I'm invisible and too visible at the same time. She closes the diary and whispers, maybe tomorrow will be better. But the next day brings something worse. When she walks into her class, everyone's looking at her again. Her desk has been covered in black marker, ugly words written all over it. She freezes. The words burn her eyes. The teacher walks in, sees it, and sighs. Clean that up, Amara. We don't have time for games. Her throat tightens. But I didn't. The teacher cuts her off. Enough excuses. The whole class laughs. She picks up a paper towel, wiping the desk with shaking hands. Each stroke feels like washing away her dignity. But she does it anyway. The narrator's voice lowers, filled with emotion. They made her feel small. They made her feel unwanted. But what they didn't know, every insult, every laugh, was building her strength one scar at a time. After class, Amara hides in the restroom. She looks in the mirror again. The same face, the same eyes, but something has changed. Her voice is trembling, but her eyes are firm. She whispers, no more tears. If they want a story, I'll give them one. The truth. The screen fades to black. The music rises slowly, low, haunting, powerful. The narrator ends part 2. They pushed her to the edge, but they didn't know. The girl they tried to destroy was about to rise. And when she did, the rain fell hard that morning, heavy, loud, and cold. Amara sat by her window, watching drops slide down the glass. She didn't want to go to school. Every part of her heart told her to stay home. But she had promised herself something. No matter how bad it gets, I will not run away. She wore her uniform in silence, packed her books, and left. The streets were wet, the sky gray. She walked fast, her shoes splashing through puddles. Each step felt heavier than the one before. The narrator's voice begins, slow and deep. Sometimes, life doesn't break you in one day. It breaks you piece by piece and until you can't tell when it started or when it will stop. When Amara entered the classroom, she felt it again, the eyes. Everyone stared for a second, then turned away, laughing quietly. Something was on her chair. She froze. It was a paper with her photo, the same one they took secretly when she was crying, printed with new words written in red marker, drama queen. Attention seeker, just another angry black girl. Her hands shook. She looked around the room, but no one met her eyes. The teacher entered and began the lesson, pretending not to see. Amara's mind went blank. The words on that paper burned into her heart. She wanted to scream, to ask why, to demand answers, but she didn't. She just sat there silent, her chest tight, her hands gripping the edge of her desk. At lunch, she walked to her usual corner. But this time something was different and her bag was gone. She looked around, panicked. Then she heard laughter near the trash bin. 3 girls were standing there, holding her bag open. They were emptying everything inside, her books, her diary, her pencils, and into the garbage. Amara ran toward them. "Stop, what are you doing?" One girl smirked. "Oh, sorry. We thought you'd already thrown your life away." The others laughed. Amara's voice cracked. "Give it back." But they just walked off, tossing her diary at her feet. It fell open, pages wet from the rain and dirt. She picked it up with shaking hands, her tears mixing with the water on the floor. The narrator speaks softly. They didn't just take her things. They took pieces of her. Her peace. Her trust, her hope. Amara ran to the restroom, locked the door, and leaned against the wall. Her heart pounded so hard she could hear it echo in the silence. She looked at her reflection, her face red. Eyes swollen, she whispered, "Why me? What did I ever do to them?" But there was no answer. Only the sound of rain outside the window. That night, she couldn't sleep. The images replayed in her mind, the paper, the laughter, the teacher's silence. Her chest hurt. But her heart burned with something new. Anger, not wild anger. Cold, controlled anger. The narrator continues. That night, she didn't cry. For the first time, she didn't hide her pain. She wrote it down line by line, every word, every name, every lie. The camera would show her writing in her diary, the pages filling with raw emotion. Her hand moves fast, the pen almost breaking the paper. At the end, she writes one final line. Tomorrow I will not be silent. The next morning, Amara walks into school differently. Her head is high, her step steady. The whispers are still there, but she doesn't flinch. She walks straight to class. The teacher is already talking when she enters. Everyone turns to look, some smirking, some waiting for her to shrink again. But she doesn't. She walks to the front of the class and says clearly, "I need to say something." The teacher blinks, surprised. "Amara, we're in the middle of—" Amara cuts her off. "No. You've been in the middle of ignoring me." The room goes silent. Even the ones who used to laugh stop smiling. Her voice shakes but stays strong. "You've called me names. You've laughed at me. You've made me feel like I don't belong. All because I'm a black girl, but I'm done pretending it doesn't hurt." Her eyes fill with tears, but she doesn't let them fall. "You can whisper, you can laugh, you can write your ugly words, but you don't get to take away my voice." No one moves. The teacher just stands there frozen. Amara continues, "I didn't choose to be born this way, but I choose not to hate myself for it, and I choose not to be afraid anymore." The silence is heavy. Some students look down, ashamed. Others shift uncomfortably. The narrator says, for the first time, her words were louder than their hate. For the first time, they saw her, not as a target, but as a person. Amara walks back to her seat slowly, her hands still trembling. But before she can sit, a boy near the back pulls out his phone and records her. She notices, but says nothing. That video would change everything. When she gets home that day, she feels lighter, as if she finally let go of a weight she'd carried for too long. She doesn't know yet that her life is about to turn upside down again. That night, as she sits on her bed, her phone starts buzzing nonstop. She looks at the screen. Dozens of messages. Her video is everywhere. Millions of people have seen it. Some call her brave. Others call her a liar. The narrator ends part 3 with suspense. The truth she spoke inside one classroom was now echoing around the world, but with every voice that cheered her, another waited in the dark. The sun had barely risen, but Amara's phone wouldn't stop buzzing. Hundreds of notifications. Hundreds of messages. At first, she thought it was a mistake. But when she opened her social media, her heart froze. There she was, standing in front of her class, her voice shaking but powerful, her words echoing across millions of screens. "You can whisper, you can laugh, you can write your ugly words, but you don't get to take away my voice." The video had gone viral overnight. The narrator's voice comes in. What started as one moment of courage had now become a storm that no one could stop. Her followers jumped from a few friends to thousands within hours. Some people commented, "You're brave." Others said, "Finally, someone spoke up." But mixed in between were cruel words. "She's lying. She's doing this for attention." Here comes another victim story. Amara scrolled through the comments, her eyes wide, her heart beating fast. It was too much. The praise, the hate, the noise. She threw her phone on the bed and whispered, "What have I done?" At school, everyone looked at her differently, not with laughter this time, but with tension. Whispers filled the halls again, but now they sounded sharper, heavier. Some students avoided her. Others watched her like she was a celebrity. Her teacher called her to stay after class. "Amara," she said, folding her arms, "this video has caused a lot of problems. You've made the school look bad." Amara blinked. "I told the truth." The teacher's face tightened. "The truth can be dangerous." Amara's voice trembled, but she didn't back down. "Only when people are afraid to hear it." The narrator adds, she had spoken once, and now she couldn't go back. The truth was out, and the world had already chosen sides. When Amara left the office, a group of students surrounded her. One girl smiled fake sweet and said, "Wow, you're famous now." Amara didn't answer. She kept walking. The same girl whispered behind her, "Let's see how long the fame lasts." That night, the comments got worse. Anonymous accounts started sending threats, messages like, "Stop lying or you'll regret it." Her hands shook as she read them. She wanted to turn off her phone, to hide, but deep inside, something refused. The narrator says, "Fear tried to silence her again, but she remembered what silence had already cost her. So she did something bold. She went live. The camera turned on, and her face appeared, calm but strong. Thousands joined instantly. She took a deep breath and said, "People keep asking if I'm scared. Yes, I am. But being scared doesn't mean being silent. I didn't post that video. Someone else did, but maybe it happened for a reason. Maybe people needed to see how it really feels to live this way." She paused. The chat flooded with hearts and comments. Some said, "You're an inspiration." Others said, "You're lying." Amara's eyes filled with tears, but she smiled softly. "You can believe me or not, but this is my story, and I'm not ashamed of it anymore." The narrator continues. The world had finally heard her voice, and once the truth is spoken, it can't be undone. The next day, reporters stood outside the school. News vans, cameras, microphones, chaos. The principal tried to act calm, but panic showed in his eyes. "Amara," he said, "we need to talk in private." Inside his office, the air felt thick. He cleared his throat. "You've put us in a difficult position. The school board is not happy." Amara looked at him directly. "Maybe the problem isn't my video. Maybe the problem is what you ignored." The principal's smile faded. He leaned back, silent. Then Amara did something unexpected. She took out her diary. She placed it on his desk and opened it. Page after page, filled with everything she had written. The bullying, the names, the dates. He flipped through it, his face turning pale. The narrator's voice grows intense. For weeks, she carried that diary like a secret. But now, it was her weapon, her truth written in ink. Amara said quietly, "You can try to silence me, but these pages speak louder than all your lies." He didn't reply. He just sat there staring at the diary and at the girl who refused to break. Outside, the reporters kept shouting questions. Amara walked past them, straight through the crowd. Flashes from cameras lit up her face. Someone yelled, "Amara! How does it feel to be the face of truth?" She stopped, turned, and said simply, "It feels heavy, but someone has to carry it," the narrator says softly. In that moment, she wasn't just a girl from a small school anymore. She was a voice for every person who had ever been ignored. But as she walked away, her phone buzzed again. A new message. No name, just one line. "You think this is over? Watch your back." Her eyes widened. The screen fades to black. The music turns dark, low, tense. The narrator closes. She had spoken the truth, but truth always comes with a price. And her back. The next morning, Amara's name was everywhere. Hashtags, headlines, news clips. Her short classroom speech had turned into something much bigger. A symbol, a debate, a storm. The narrator's voice sets the tone. One video, one truth, one voice, and now the whole world was watching. At breakfast, her mother scrolled through her phone, eyes wide. "Baby," she whispered, "you're on TV." Amara froze, spoon halfway to her mouth. "TV?" Her mom nodded slowly, the screen glowing with her daughter's face. A world divided. Some people called her a hero. Others called her a liar. Famous people were sharing her clip. Talk shows were discussing her name. One comment read, "She's brave. She spoke for every black girl who's been silenced." Another said, "She's making it up for attention." Amara's heart raced as she read. She couldn't believe how fast the world could love you and hate you at the same time. The narrator said softly, "The world wanted her story, but they didn't care what it cost her to tell it." The pressure builds at school. Reporters stood outside the gate. Students whispered louder than ever. Some wanted selfies with her. Others rolled their eyes when she walked past. In class, the teacher said, "Let's stay focused today," but every phone under every desk was showing her face. During lunch, a boy came up to her table. He smiled and said, "You're famous now. Enjoy it while it lasts." Then he walked away, laughing with his friends. Amara stared down at her food. She felt both powerful and trapped, like the whole world was watching her through glass. The narrator continues. She had spoken her truth to be free, but now her truth had become a cage. The messages that evening, her phone exploded with messages. Again, thousands of strangers were writing to her. Some said thank you. Some sent hate. Some begged her to share more. Her hands trembled as she scrolled. She saw one message. That made her stop. My daughter watched your video and finally spoke about her bullying. Thank you. Tears filled Amara's eyes. For the first time in days, she smiled, but a second later another message appeared. You'll regret this. Her heart dropped. She locked her phone and took a deep breath. The narrator speaks. The world gave her love and fear in the same breath, but inside that storm, she began to find her power. A new voice that weekend. A local news channel asked to interview her. At first, she wanted to say no, but then she thought about the diary, the pages full of pain, and she said yes. The studio lights were bright. The camera red light blinked. The reporter smiled. Amara, millions have seen your video. What do you want them to understand? Amara took a deep breath. I want them to understand that being different shouldn't mean being hated. I didn't ask for attention. I asked for respect. Her voice was calm, steady. Even the crew went silent. The narrator adds, she was no longer the girl hiding in corners. She was the girl standing in the light, even when it burned. The backlash the next day, new articles appeared. The girl who shook her school. Truth or drama? The Amara story. Talk shows argued about her. Some praised her courage. Others questioned her story. Her mother told her gently, don't read it, baby. But Amara couldn't help it. Each headline felt like another test. Everyone has an opinion, she whispered. But only I lived it. The turning point one evening as she walked home, she noticed a crowd near her building. Kids from her school holding phones, recording her again. They were chanting something, half mocking, half curious. Amara stopped in the middle of the street, heart pounding. She wanted to run, but she didn't. She lifted her chin, looked straight at the cameras and said calmly, you can film me all you want, but I'm done being your joke. The crowd went quiet. A single clap broke the silence, and then another, then another. Not everyone was cruel this time. Some were finally starting to see her differently. The narrator says, sometimes, power doesn't come from shouting. It comes from standing still and refusing to bow. A new fire that night. Amara sat on her bed with her mother beside her. They watched the latest news story and the one showing her new words. The reporter said, a teen girl turns hate into hope. Her mother smiled softly. See, they're finally hearing you. Amara nodded slowly.
They're hearing me, Mom.
But they don't know what comes next. The screen fades dark. The music grows tense, slow, and deep. The narrator ends part 5 with suspense. The internet had given her a voice among an army of strangers. But behind the screen, shadows were moving, and the next morning light spilled through Amara's window. For the first time in weeks, she felt calm. The storm outside was still loud, but inside her, something had changed. She wasn't scared anymore. The narrator's voice begins. Sometimes strength doesn't shout, sometimes it whispers, I'm still here. The summons at school, the hallways buzzed. Posters about Respect Week hung on the walls. A late attempt by the school to look caring. Then Amara heard her name on the speaker. Amara Johnson. Please come to the principal's office. She walked there slowly, each step echoing against the tiled floor. Inside sat the principal, 2 teachers, and a board official in a gray suit. A camera crew waited outside the glass door. Amara, the principal began, trying to sound kind. We want to resolve this peacefully. The media attention is hurting the school. Amara folded her hands. Then maybe the school should start listening. The man in the gray suit leaned forward. These stories you're spreading, and they're damaging. We need you to post something. Calmer. She raised her eyebrows. You mean lie? The room went silent. The evidence without another word. Amara opened her backpack and placed her diary on the table again. The same one she'd shown before, now filled with even more entries. Every day, she said, I wrote down what happened. Every name. Every time someone looked away, she slid the book across the table. The pages fluttered like wings. The narrator adds, truth doesn't need permission. It only needs someone brave enough to say it out loud. The board official skimmed a few pages. His confident face began to shift. Is this true? He asked the principal. The principal's silence was answer enough. The hearing a week later, the school held a public meeting. Parents, students, and cameras filled the gym. Amara sat in the front row, her mother beside her, squeezing her hand. The principal walked onto the stage and cleared his throat. "We want to assure everyone that Riverside High is a safe and respectful environment." A voice from the crowd shouted, "Then why did she have to fight alone?" Murmurs rippled through the room. The principal froze. Then Amara stood. Her voice was steady. "Because no one listened until I screamed." She stepped forward, facing the crowd. "I didn't ask for fame. I asked for fairness. I didn't start this war. I just stopped hiding from it." Her words echoed through the gym like thunder. Reporters lifted their cameras. Students watched in silence. Even the ones who once mocked her looked away. Ashamed, the narrator whispers. Power had finally shifted. From those who spoke over her, to the girl they tried to silence. The change days later, the school announced new rules, anti-bullying programs, teacher training, and a student committee to report discrimination. For the first time, Amara's name wasn't whispered like gossip. It was spoken with respect. But it wasn't over. Every interview, every meeting, came with pressure. People wanted her to be perfect, calm, polite, even when she was still healing. At night, she told her mom, "They want me to be brave." "But quiet," her mom smiled softly. "Then be brave, Biao, but never quiet." The moment of truth. One evening, Amara stood outside the school gate, the same place where everything began. The sky was turning orange. The building looked different now, not smaller, but less powerful. She took out her phone and started recording herself. Her voice was calm but strong. "You tried to bury me in silence, but I grew in. This is for every kid who's ever been told to stay quiet." She ended the video with a small smile and posted it. Within minutes, thousands of likes flooded in, but this time, she didn't care about the numbers. She looked up at the sky and whispered, "This is my voice, and it's not going away." The narrator closes. The system stood tall, but she stood taller. They tried to make her story disappear. Instead, the story opens with silence. No voices, no noise, just the sound of wind. Amara stands alone in the empty school hallway, looking at the walls where everything began. The narrator's voice is calm but deep. Every battle leaves a mark, but some marks turn into wings. The return months have passed since the meeting that changed everything. New posters fill the school now. Equality, respect, courage. Students walk past her with quiet nods instead of whispers. Even the teachers greet her differently, with respect, not pity. Amara walks to her locker, touches the cold metal, and smiles softly. "This used to be my cage," she whispers. "Now it's just a door." She opens it. Inside, there's no hate note this time, only a folded paper that says, "Thank you for speaking when we couldn't." Her eyes fill with tears, not from pain this time, but from pride. The invitation one morning, she receives an email. It's from a youth conference. "We'd like you to speak about your story." She stares at the screen for a long moment. The narrator says, "She once hid behind silence, now the world was asking her to speak." At the event, bright lights shine on her face again, but this time, she isn't scared. The hall is full of young faces, some smiling, some nervous, all listening. She begins softly. "I was once that girl who thought her voice didn't matter. I was told I was too different to belong. But difference isn't weakness, it's power, if you dare to keep standing." The audience claps. Some wipe their eyes. The twist, just as she steps off the stage, a woman approaches. The same teacher who once ignored the cruelty. "Amara," she says quietly. "I'm sorry. I should have protected you." Amara studies her face. She sees guilt, real guilt. And for the first time, she doesn't feel anger. She simply nods and says, "Thank you." Change starts with honesty. The narrator adds, "Forgiveness doesn't erase pain, but it sets the soul free." The movement, her speech spreads online again. But this time, not as a fight. It becomes a message of unity. Students from other schools share their own stories using the hashtag, #TheRealTruth. Amara scrolls through them. Photos, letters, short videos. She smiles and whispers, "They're not afraid anymore." Her mother stands beside her, proud. "You started something," she says. Amara shakes her head softly. "No, Mom, we started something. The real truth later." Amara visits the park near her old apartment. Children run, laugh and play freely. She sits on a bench, looking at the sky turning gold. The narrator says, "Every storm ends, but the strongest souls remember the rain and learn how to dance in it." Amara takes out her old diary. The pages are worn, the ink faded. She flips to the very first page, the one that said, "They made my life a living hell." She crosses out the words and writes beneath them, "They tried to, but I made it heaven." She closes the book and smiles, a real, peaceful smile. The camera pans out slowly as she walks away, sunlight glowing behind her. The narrator finishes with power and grace. The truth was never just her story. It was a mirror for the world to see itself. They called her a black girl like it was a reason to hate. She turned it into a reason to rise.